You're here for another edition in the Jehovah's Witness series, where you can become an expert on the Jehovah's Witness and the scriptures that they use in their attempts at world domination. Learn how to stop the conversion tactics at the door and turn the table. In this episode, we'll be discussing, is it a cross or a torture stake? If you look at the Jehovah's Witness website, jw.org, under the title, Did Jesus Die on a Cross?, you will see the argumentation provided for the Jehovah's Witness conclusion that Jesus was not crucified on a cross, but rather a stake. The argument presented is as follows. 1. The Bible indicates that Jesus was crucified on a stauros or an exilon. 2. Qualified authorities report that these words mean tree or timber and upright stake. Therefore, Jesus was crucified on an upright stake of timber. Are the Jehovah's Witnesses correct? Was Jesus crucified on a cross or a pole? After nearly a decade of studying the Bible, logic, philosophy, learning from the top thinkers from around the world on the subject of religion and particularly Christianity, today I'd like to share my thoughts with you on cross or torture stake. If the Jehovah's Witness argument is valid and their premises are true, then their conclusion is true. The Jehovah's Witness argument seems to be valid, that is, in the proper form, and doesn't seem to contain any logical fallacies. So let us see if the premises are true. Premise 1 seems to be true, because there are numerous early manuscripts that contain the words stauros or exilon as the crucifixion device. Premise 2, however, seems to have a problem. The Jehovah's Witnesses defend this premise by quoting the critical lexicon and concordance to English and Greek New Testament, where it says stauros simply means upright stake and never means two pieces of wood joining at any angle. If you look at the website, wikipedia.org, the secular ran website, you will find the information regarding the translation of these words. Wikipedia says the critical lexicon by hyperdispensationalist E.W. Bullinger does say what the Jehovah's Witnesses quote, but he says this in contrast to other authorities. The word stauros of Koine Greek from 300 BC to AD 300 was used to denote a structure on which Romans executed criminals. And in the writings of the Diodorus Siculus from 100 years before Christ, and Plutarch and Lucian, who are non-Christian writers, whom Lucian makes clear the shape of the device, the word stauros is generally translated as stake. This form of punishment involved binding the victim with outstretched arms to a beam. Then the beam was raised against an upright shaft and made fast to it, about 3 meters from the ground. So the main issue here is, how was the criminal attached to the pole? Was the criminal attached directly to the pole, or to a crossbeam that was then attached to the pole? The secret to this question may be hidden in the very pages of the Bible itself. If you turn in your Bible to Matthew 27:37, it says they put a sign above Jesus' head on the cross. It does not say that they put a sign above his hands. If Jesus were directly attached to the pole with his hands above his head, it seems like they would say that they put a sign above his hands, but it says they put a sign above his head. Additional evidence from the Bible is at John 20:25, where doubting Thomas was saying, I will not believe Jesus is resurrected until I see in his hands the imprint of the nails. Notice Thomas says nails, plural, meaning more than one nail. He says nails twice. Now this makes perfect sense if Jesus' hands were outstretched apart and nailed on opposite ends of a crossbeam. But it doesn't seem to make sense if he was nailed directly to the stake, because you could just pound one nail through both of his hands. But Thomas says nails in his hands. So with this biblical evidence, along with the early BC writings identifying the crossbeam and the T-shape for Roman crucifixion, we must conclude that Jesus was indeed hung on a crossbeam rather than a single pole. Thank you so much for watching. Please be sure to tune in to our other videos. It really is interesting and sad to see the length that people go to cover up their false teachings. Love God with all your mind and read your Bible. Questions and suggestions are welcomed. Please post them in the comments below.